Hello and welcome to this virtual roundtable discussion where we'll be discussing the evolution of customer engagement. This is one of a series of 3 videos looking at the fast pace of change happening right now in the world of customer experience, the challenges, the opportunities and the future. The videos are sponsored by Vonage and forms the basis of an article in the Future of Marketing and Customer Experience special report published in the Sunday Times. I'm your host, Nick Eason, and I'm delighted to be joined by 5 influential leaders in this space. They are Sunny Rao from Vonage, Mark Smith of Contact Engine, Kat Robinson at Metro Bank, Stan Swinton from Deliveroo, and Johanna Schilt from Crew, or Livy, the brand name here in the UK. Let's start with Stan Swinton from Deliveroo. Stan, when it comes to customer engagement, what needs to change going forwards and where are the opportunities?
Ultimately, for a company, a lot of that is going to come back to the operating model. And I think there's not a good standard out there for what a brilliant customer-centric operating model looks like. We see this in bits and pieces in different companies around the world, but the idea of organizing for the customer and organizing around the customer, as opposed to traditional silo-based operating models that are matrixed or aligned around specific accountabilities or KPIs. And so starting to organize an operating model that is end-to-end around an experience, for example, in healthcare, or ordering and delivering food end-to-end. I mean, these are not the ways that companies organize today. And that's going to make it very difficult for them to adapt at the pace at which customers expect. So from a challenges perspective, I think that's going to be a key one. I think the other one is sort of the regulatory environment which we exist in. Obviously, customers are getting more comfortable with their virtual selves, and they're more comfortable with sharing the data with companies and brands that they want to interact with online. But the restrictions around that data make it very difficult for those companies to truly kind of utilize that to deliver great experiences. For example, we as Deliveroo are very conscious to make sure that we don't program personalized experiences that sort of, what's the word for that? Cement biases into our algorithms, or cement things that could be construed as biases into our algorithms about our customers. And so we have to be very conscious of who our customers are, be careful not to kind of treat them in ways that would be inherently biased in our propositions. And that makes it difficult when it comes to kind of delivering on a truly personalized, individualized experience.
From a technological point of view, Mark, and what you do with Contact Engine, are we seeing the challenges and then the opportunities where what the technology represents and with data, and then we'll bring other people in talking about these things?
Yeah, sure. Stan's view on personalization, I must take issue with this because I'm a vegan, right? And Waitrose will constantly swap out my tofu for chicken. I really wish they wouldn't do that, but I appreciate the challenges you face. I think opportunities-wise, the other thing I've noticed, and Sunny may have come across this as well, we work with some of the largest companies in the world, some of the biggest telcos in the world, some of the biggest utility companies in the world. I'm amazed at how many unnecessary barriers have just been pushed over. Right, our sales cycles were ludicrous because there's a whole series of functions and jobs that have appeared inside businesses that didn't used to be there to get in the way of change. Right, and they're all over the place. Right, I'm astonished at how much bureaucracy companies manage to impose upon themselves. Turns out a pandemic just pushes them all away. So things that were previously taking us 6 months are taking us a couple of days, and that's been a breath of fresh air because the speed at which tech companies develop stuff far exceeds the appetite of using that stuff that large corporates have, because super tankers and speedboats. So I think the opportunities for my small business, I only employ about 100 people, is that change has just happened, and all the crap that's in the way has sort of disappeared, and that's a really good thing because companies have become quite bloated with unnecessary bureaucracy, and it's a pleasure to see that fall away.
That's
I could, Nick, I also wanted to give an example of what I was meaning, because I don't think actually you you and I disagree on this point, Mark. Two examples. One of those today is we at Deliverr are very careful not to differentiate our proposition based on the value of our customers to us, because we do not want to impose socioeconomic norms or barriers on how we segment our customers. We think that another example of that is we have location-based fraud controls that we don't implement. And the reason for that is we don't want to bias against certain socioeconomic standing in the community. And so there are regulations about this, and we're also very conscious about this in the community. So you may not be aware of these regulations, but you have to be very careful today how you segment your customer and how you use the data you have about them to manipulate your proposition.
Yeah, just don't send me chicken.
I've never sent you chicken. So please feedback on Waitrose.
What are some of the opportunities that you see, Sunny, from this perspective, and what we've been talking about in this perspective?
I think one of the things that this does is it makes businesses rethink all those barriers to market and look at how you can unbundle a lot of capabilities. And I think this is just going to give rise to a lot of new business models that are going to disrupt the market even more. And I think, to Stan's point about those biases, yes, and it's commendable that you don't build those biases. There's a whole, there's now a majors in universities about ethics and how you use with machine learning, so that you're not building these biases into it, so as to make young people who are coming into the workforce aware of these capabilities. But at the same time, it's also how do you use some of that capabilities to personalize your experience based on how you set that up. So give the control back to the consumer so they can control their experience themselves. So for example, I'm just going to pick on a little bit of what Stan was saying and Mark was saying. If Mark is vegan, then that's his preference that he's setting. So the algorithm is simply using what Mark has already freely given, that he's vegan, to basically maneuver the experience that Mark has with whatever service that he is working with. But I think what you will find even more is that's a bit of a simplistic example, but you will look at how things are going to change. Why in healthcare today it's all diagnostic, just like everything else in customer service is reactive. Healthcare is a very diagnostic mentality today. You fall sick, so you go to the doctor. How can you change that and make it even more early in the curve? How do you make it preventative? And therefore, how do you get sensors to look at your body and get that data early so you can give those warnings? And those, I think, are the one areas that Johannes is really deep into. And those are the insights you get. Now, that gives rise to a completely different business model, which I would think at some point is going to be based more subscription-based than diagnostic-based or point of care based. So you'll see the market disrupt. Both in payments, in food delivery, and food delivery to insurance and into healthcare. So I think we have some interesting times ahead of us.
And that's a good segue into Johannes and the business that you're involved with healthcare. Patients are demanding more, and I think we've been talking about lack of patient focus and lack of efficiencies, and there's lots of potential and opportunities there, right?
Yeah, but as Sunny, as you said, I think one of the mega potentials obviously is to move a very reactive system to a more proactive system, and there's and that patients are taking more control of their own health, and that's key to this. And also access is obviously a crucial part of it, because it's very hard to build a proactive and preventative system if the system itself is built to fend people off, which sometimes is the case in European healthcare systems, that you just try to triage people away from healthcare instead of actually having them using it. And then obviously driving a lot of efficiencies in healthcare, so you can build a system, but that we have done with almost perfect accessibility, where you can access healthcare services 24/7 all days a week. And then sort of with data, the absurdity within healthcare is that a lot of the data within healthcare is not really used. It's in silos, and no one is really taking action and using that data to be preventative and proactive with your health. obviously you want that to happen. I want my healthcare provider, my physicians, to be preventative and proactive with my health, and I want to make sure that my healthcare provider knows me well and cares for me, and sort of deliver on that promise that healthcare never managed to keep, really, to be there when you're in need and to know you well and to care and be preventative and proactive about your health. And definitely technology and innovation will enable that at scale, because suddenly that can be done, because as you said, you can fetch data in real time, you can collect a lot of insights at scale, and then what you push the system into being more preventative and proactive. And that's really the mega thing here, in my opinion. And that's where I think we will hope that we'll see a lot of things move forward very quickly in the coming 10 years in this space. And our aim is definitely to be a leading force in moving the whole system into something that is way more preventative and proactive.
And from a banking perspective, Kat, I mean, these are really exciting times for banking, and you've been talking about curated experiences, across various customer touch points. Do you think there are a lot of opportunities going forwards?
Yeah, definitely. I think actually I was just drawing on the parallels between banking and healthcare, in that banking's never been short of data. We've got a lot, other sectors would kill for the data we have about our customers, but we've not historically as a sector been great at using it. So I think there's definitely lots of lovely opportunity in terms of using data to be more proactive with customers and help them. So, for example, Nick, I can see you've spent more money than you normally do this month. Are we going to be okay to pay your mortgage on the 21st type of thing? Banks are starting to get there, but there's, I think, a lot more we could do to help customers feel more in control of and better about their money. So absolutely, I think a lot we could do with data. I also think we can use robotics, AI really smartly to kind of do a lot of the kind of the mundane, kind of straightforward, simple type transactions for us, to free up our people to deliver more of the kind of value adding experiences, whether that's coaching someone how to use digital channels, or whether that's sitting down with someone and helping them understand how to manage their money and think about, I don't know, big life events that are coming up and how they plan for them. And so I think it's also about freeing up our people, if you like, so that they can genuinely add more to the customer and help them with their money.
That's a fantastic note on which to end this short video. Thanks very much to our speakers for a fascinating discussion. I've certainly learned a lot. Do click through to the other 2 videos in this series, where we'll be talking about the changing landscape for customer engagement and a look to the future. Thank you for watching.